Part 48. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 471. New World, Cake Island, inside the castle. Charlotte Lingling, Pero, and Katakuri are all here. In the past, when Charlotte Lingling wanted to discuss something, she would only call Katakuri. But now, there is an eldest son, Pero. It can be seen that although Katakuri has regained his freedom, he can continue to be the leader of his generals in the Big Mom Pirates. But Charlotte Lingling's sense of him is no longer as good as before. I was deliberately suppressing Katakuri. Katakuri didn't care about this. He didn't care about power or anything like that. All he cared about was his younger brothers and sisters. In contrast, although Pero is also a more humane guy, he cares more about the interests of the Big Mom Pirates. Before Katakuri contradicts Charlotte Lingling. There has always been a tacit understanding between Pero and Katakuri. There was no major rift, and the relationship between the two was even very good. But now, there is a rift between Pero and Katakuri, and it is gradually widening. And they also represent the two factions within the Big Mom Pirates. Charlotte Lingling was eating a piece of cake in her hand, and no one spoke at this time. After Charlotte Lingling finished eating the cake, she said with a slightly irritated expression, "Stop supporting the red-haired pirates." Pero did not object and said directly, "Yes, Mom." Katakuri frowned slightly and said, "Mom, isn't this inappropriate? With the red hair pirates here, we can gain some strategic advantage over the Warhammer pirates. Advantage, at a small cost, to entangle the Warhammer pirates and expand their losses." With a look of displeasure in Charlotte Lingling's eyes, she said, "Do you want us to start a war with the Warhammer pirates again?" Now, the Warhammer pirates on the sea have announced that they want the red-haired pirates to fight again. The thieves get out of the New World. They will kill anyone who dares to stop him. Now if Charlotte Lingling leads the Big Mom Pirates to stir up trouble inside, how can she provide some kind of shelter to Shank's thugs? Maybe the Warhammer Pirates would take this as an excuse to fight with them and kill them. The implications here are indeed huge, and may even cause great chaos in the New World. Perhaps the Warhammer Pirates are just saying harsh words. They also have many concerns and should not be so impulsive. But Charlotte Lingling didn't dare to gamble anymore. Katakuri was keenly aware of one thing, that is, his mother was afraid. After the defeat at Butter Island, he could feel that Charlotte Lingling was more annoyed and angry at that time. She was unwilling but not afraid. But now, for some reason, she seemed afraid. "I'm scared of the Warhammer Pirates." But Katakuri still felt a little reluctant to believe it. Although he has a lot of dissatisfaction with Charlotte Lingling's strength is still engraved in his heart. After traveling across the world for so many years, he once stood at the top of the sea. How could a big pirate like her be afraid? Thinking of this, Katakuri decided to test it a little more. "Mom, if the Warhammer pirates say a word, our Big Mom Pirates will terminate our cooperation with the Red Hair Pirates. What will the people on the sea think of us? They will think that we are afraid of the Warhammer Pirates, which will bring very negative factors to our reputation as the Big Mom Pirates," Katakuri said softly. Charlotte Lingling's breathing became a little heavier, with a look of disgust in her eyes, and she said solemnly, "This is not a question of whether you are afraid or not. You must understand compromise. If that Shanks can bear the burden, I don't mind supporting him, but we survived him, and he's useless." Seeing that his mother seemed to be about to explode, Pero also quickly glared at Katakuri, asking him to stop messing up. "Talk, otherwise you won't be able to eat and walk around." In fact, although Pero also wants to become the real second in command and inherit the Big Mom Pirates in the future. But he had no intention of doing anything to Katakuri. He still regarded Katakuri as his younger brother. He just hoped to suppress Katakuri. In his heart, the interests of the Big Mom pirates are his priority, not personal gain. If Katakuri is squeezed away or killed, it's a loss for the entire Big Mom pirates, right? In fact, Katakuri was able to be released from the grounded state so quickly. On the one hand, he was subdued, and on the other hand, Perospero was helping. The rift and struggle between the two is ideological, not emotional. Both of them are relatively emotional people. Compared with a cold and ruthless guy like Charlotte Lingling, they hardly look like biological relatives. Katakuri, what Mom said is right. It's not that we are afraid of the Warhammer pirates, but that there is no need to help someone who can't help him. Since the red-haired pirates entered the New World, they have repeatedly attacked the Warhammer pirates. We did it right, and we gave him a lot of help, but so far, they have never won once, which has proven their inability. In this case, why do we need to offend the Warhammer pirates for a bunch of trash? Or even cause greater chaos, Perospero explained. Katakuri's eyes were a little gloomy, but actually he felt a little strange in his heart. Judging from the information, Shanks should not be such a useless person. Even if the whole group is not strong, he can still. It wouldn't be like this. Could it be that he suffered some kind of brain injury? Are you kidding me? Unfortunately, the three bosses of the Big Mom pirates didn't realize one thing. That's Shanks. This guy shouts slogans that he wants to come to the New World to join the Warhammer pirates, but in fact, he is just provoking and making small fuss. What he really wants to do is to kill their Big Mom pirates. In this regard, he actually did a good job. It can be seen from his rapid approach to the Big Mom pirates that he was using the support provided by the Big Mom pirates to have a small fight with the Warhammer pirates. Here, he is sucking the blood of the Big Mom pirates, strengthening himself, and at the same time raising the banner against the Warhammer pirates. After coming to the New World for such a long time, apart from the recent encounter, Shanks actually not only lost nothing, but actually grew a lot stronger. For example, his cotters have gained more combat experience with the masters of the New World. These are hidden increases. It is precisely because of the support of the Big Mom pirates that they are able to escape alive every time. Isn't it possible to turn this into strength? Of course, this is only one aspect, and there is still a lot of growth in other aspects. In short, Shanks is like a shit-stirrer and a thief. Katakuri had some doubts in his heart, but he had to say that Perospero's reasons made sense. There is no need for the Big Mom pirates to throw themselves into the street for a group of people who cannot afford to support them, causing a greater conflict with the Warhammer pirates. If Katakuri hadn't noticed Charlotte Lingling's fear of the Warhammer pirates, maybe he would have made a choice here. But now, he vaguely felt something was wrong. There's something wrong with Mom, and there's something wrong with that guy Shanks. However, compared to the uncertainty on Shanks' side, Katakuri had already determined something that was very difficult for him to accept through testing. That is to say, it seems unrealistic to expect Charlotte Lingling, who has fear in her heart, to fight against Orgrim. My mother was once very ambitious and wanted to become the pirate overlord. Now, he no longer has that ambition, his courage was knocked out by Orgrim, and he has become a cowardly captain who just wants to maintain his current status and situation. Fear, this word is very interesting. When Butter Island was defeated, Charlotte Lingling was not afraid of the Warhammer pirates or Orgrim. There is more anger in my heart. And when this anger disappeared, the strength of the Big Mom pirates declined overall, while the Warhammer pirates prospered. Orgrim became stronger and stronger, and the Warhammer pirates became stronger and stronger. Charlotte Lingling began to be afraid. She would occasionally wake up from her dreams, fearing that when she suddenly woke up, Orgrim had already led his men to the Cake Island, trampled everything she owned on the ground, and smashed it with a warhammer. In fact, Charlotte Lingling has never given up her attention to the Warhammer pirates. The more she paid attention, the more she could feel that the gap between the power of the Warhammer pirates and the power of the Big Mom pirates was constantly widening. So, in defeat, Charlotte Lingling has no fear. In just a few short days, I actually frightened myself. She has taken measures, such as supporting the red-haired pirates to cause trouble. But it turns out that the Warhammer pirates are not afraid of this at all. Now, when the Warhammer pirates say harsh words, even if Charlotte Lingling doesn't want to admit it, she knows that she is afraid of feeling guilty. She was afraid that nightmare would become a reality. So I don't dare to provoke the Warhammer pirates anymore. Even if it damages the reputation of the Big Mom pirates, so what? The only ones who can defeat her are the Yonko of the same level. These people all have a clear mind, and the thoughts of the rest are meaningless to the Big Mom pirates. If you have the guts, come and challenge the Big Mom pirates. I, Charlotte Lingling, can't deal with Orgrim, so I can't deal with you bastards. As long as she can maintain her current position and be a Yonko, Charlotte Lingling, she will be somewhat satisfied. She didn't want to provoke that damn Orgrim anymore, scared. Before, Katakuri had suspicions but had no confirmation, but now, he already had the answer in his mind. Maybe Shanks is a little unreliable, but at least he still has courage. But now, the captain of the Big Mom pirates doesn't even have the courage anymore. Even though Charlotte Lingling is much more reliable than Shanks, for Katakuri, Charlotte Lingling is no longer someone who can support his revenge. I had some ideas in my mind, but I just couldn't make up my mind. Now, after confirming these facts, Katakuri made a decision in his heart. If you have the chance, you should leave the rotten ship of the Big Mom pirates. The courageless captain, with a group of loyal subordinates, will never be able to sink the Black Narwhal on the sea. He, Katakuri, is looking for a ship that has the guts to charge. Even if that ship is still weak, it doesn't matter. Red hair, don't disappoint me, Katakuri thought in his heart. He was already disappointed with the Big Mom pirates, so there was no need to fight for anything. Facing Charlotte Lingling and Pero, Katakuri finally nodded and said, I know, Mom, brother. Seeing that, Katakuri gave in and stopped irritating his mother. Pero relaxed a little and said, just understand. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 472. A certain sea area in the New World. A pirate ship flying the flag of the red-haired pirates is drifting here. This ship is called the Red Force. Shanks was sitting on the boat at this time, holding a newspaper in his hand. The news published on it was related to him. It was the news that his red-haired pirates had been defeated by the Warhammer pirates. The above article blew the Warhammer pirates into the sky and crushed the red-hair pirates to the ground. What is the New World? It is the New World of the Four Emperors. Even the King's Kabuki can only be obedient in the New World. Otherwise, they will be on the same path as the red-haired pirates, and they will be suppressed until they can no longer survive. Lucky Lou had one of his arms broken and was hung on his chest by a triangle scarf. His other hand was still holding a big chicken leg. This time, the red-haired pirates lost a few cotters. Although they had just joined the red-haired pirates not long ago, they had some feelings for each other, so the atmosphere in the red-haired pirates was very unpleasant at this time. Captain, the people from Warhammer pirates have made harsh words, saying that they will drive us out of the New World. They will kill anyone who stops us. What should we do? Lucky Lou asked. Shanks was staring at the newspaper, thinking about something, but did not answer. But it could be seen that his expression was very gloomy and a little irritable. But when he raised his head by the time, there was already a smile on my face. What else can be done? Let's take one step at a time and see if the Big Mom pirates can support us again, Shanks said with a smile. However, the others didn't pay much attention to his heartless performance. The Navy can't count on it. Over there in G-5, that person is a pretty and smooth young girl with a good figure. If the big boss can help him once, the Navy has given them a lot of face in the New World. Although there has been a lot of secret support and intelligence since then. But now that they are deep into the New World, they still want to count on the Navy to help them. It is impossible to withstand the pressure of some Warhammer pirates. What we can count on is the Big Mom pirates, who are stupid and rich. If the Big Mom pirates dare to withstand the pressure of the Warhammer pirates, they can continue to stand up. Shanks, of course, will not choose to leave the New World and continue to muddy the muddy waters. It is his purpose and interest to be a troublemaker. It is best that the Warhammer pirates keep their word and defeat Dare in one breath. The Big Mom pirates in front of them were destroyed. Even if Shanks found the opportunity to take over, he would have completed his explanation to the Navy. But Shanks now knows very well that maybe the Big Mom pirates, the pirate group, will not risk a full-scale confrontation with the Warhammer pirates to support them. Alas, the era of free prostitution is coming to an end, Shanks thought so in his heart. What if they don't dare anymore? After all, the Warhammer pirates still have some ruthlessness. They started by going crazy. No one dares to treat their words as farts, right? Lucky Lou asked. The people of the Warhammer pirates now do business in a polite manner. They seem to follow the rules. In fact, this is indeed the case, at least in the Dark World, the Warhammer pirates, they are representatives of the rules. They make their own rules and take the lead in abiding by them. Even if there is a loss of profits, they are willing to speak with the rules first. But no one dares to measure the Warhammer pirates at the pirate level like this. Who on the sea? I didn't know that there are two top lunatics in this pirate field. The first lunatic is Kaido. This guy often singles out a group of people by himself, and his behavior is crazy enough. But his madness can still be, it is within the acceptance range, at least the beast pirates will not go crazy with them. But the Warhammer pirates are different. From top to bottom, there is no one who is not crazy. Orgrim is the craziest. Those were all published in the newspapers and characterized. There is nothing in this world that he dare not do. Kill the Pirate King, rob the prison, and start a riot in Marijoya. Apart from going to Marineford to cause trouble, besides, what has he not done? Therefore, you cannot use common sense to measure this person. If he really goes crazy, don't look at the fact that the New World Yonko pirates are very restrained. In the blink of an eye, he dares to overturn the table, holding down Charlotte Lingling and hammering the ground. Shanks was sure of this. Maybe a lot of benefits would be lost in this. But compared with these benefits, the harsh words and face of his Warhammer pirates may be more important. Pirates, sometimes, fight for their strength. Therefore, Shanks deduced with high probability that Charlotte Lingling did not dare to gamble. Orgrim dared to play this way because he was strong enough. Even if he lost, even if you get a huge profit, you will still be able to secure it. If Charlotte Lingling dares to play like this, her Big Mom pirates will be in trouble. Shanks smiled, with a touch of helplessness on his face, and said, then what else can be done? Just get out of the New World obediently. We can't play with him for the time being. Yes, Shanks is very single, and this is not the first time he has left the New World. During the time he came to the New World, he had stirred up enough troubles that he had truly disgusted the Yonko pirates. This is enough. The fat man didn't eat it all in one go. He needs to digest it now. If Charlotte Lingling feels guilty, Shanks will withdraw from the New World without hesitation. Because if you stay here, you will be beaten to death completely. At the same time, if Charlotte Lingling feels guilty, then Shanks actually has a very calculated agenda. A Yonko who has a guilty conscience is the best Yonko to deal with. What's more, most of the cooperation during this period was brokered by Katakuri. Shanks and Katakuri are both smart people. After several contacts, it is not difficult for Shanks to see what Katakuri is thinking. He has great hatred for the Warhammer pirates and has already separated from the Big Mom pirates. In other words, he couldn't get along with Charlotte Lingling, a dead old woman. Shanks has reason to believe that after this incident, Katakuri will definitely not want to let go, but if Charlotte Lingling does not dare to take the lead, the rift between the two parties will eventually become even greater. This is your opportunity. He had long felt that the power in his hands was too weak. He is very strong, but Orgrim is even stronger, and Orgrim has a group of powerful masters in his hands. In Shanks' hands, the only ones who can fight now are Lucky Lu and Jesus Bu. What are the shortcomings of the others? If Katakuri can really be dealt with, the two parties will become a family. By then, he may even directly swallow most of the power of the Big Mom pirates. Isn't it possible to reach the top? When the time comes, there will be no need to do anything under the Shishibukai, and one can even return to the new world in an upright manner. What Charlotte Lingling doesn't dare to do, Shanks is very courageous. Ha 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 ha, Captain, isn't this too shameful? Lucky Lu said with a smile. It could be heard that although they were a little helpless, they could still understand Shanks and even had the mood to tease him. Well, Shanks shook his head helplessly. He was the most honorable person. Now the Warhammer pirates are telling them to get out of the new world, otherwise they will kill them. This is very embarrassing. But so what? If you don't have the strength, how can you maintain your face? The 5 old stars now have to speak politely to Orgrim. Is it because of face? That's because Orgrim's strength is there. Losing face means losing face, but face is temporary, and strength is fundamental. Now that we are not strong enough, we deserve to lose face. In the future, when our red-haired pirate group becomes stronger, everyone will give me a favor. It's all about saving face, and Orgrim is no exception, Shanks said boldly. If you save people and lose land, everyone and land will be saved. If you save land and lose people, you will lose people and land. Shanks still understands this truth. Orgrim is qualified to engage in a dispute of will, because he has the capital. Big. He, Shanks, is not qualified to fight for this face now. He should treat his grandson as a good boy and get out of the new world. However, we still have to look at the choice of the Big Mom pirates. What if they are stubborn? Just here when Shanks was thinking about this, the phone in his arms rang. When he took it out, Shanks had a smile on his face and said, "Katakuri." That's right, this caller was from Katakuri. Soon, Shanks answered the phone and asked, "Katakuri, how are you doing recently?" Katakuri was silent for a while, but he didn't talk nonsense to Shanks. He said directly, "Red Hair, our Big Mom pirates will stop assisting you, so you can take care of yourself." Shanks had some regrets on his face, but he was not disappointed, because this was something he had expected. That's really a pity. I thought the two of us were very compatible and could be brothers. I didn't expect that we would part ways, Shanks said with a smile. Katakuri frowned slightly and asked thoughtfully, "Red Hair, in my opinion, you are a guy with skill, ability, and strength. Shouldn't make things like this, why?" Shanks grinned and said with a smile, "I'm ready to leave the new world. After all, I can't play the Warhammer pirates. I hope your dream can come true." Katakuri didn't answer anything. But Katakuri's eyes lit up and he said softly, as expected, "You didn't go for the Warhammer pirates in the first place." Shanks didn't answer anything, but Katakuri was so smart that he already heard the answer. If Shanks really wanted to fight the Warhammer pirates to the end, he couldn't be deterred by a harsh word. Why should we wait until the Warhammer pirates take some action? However, Shanks was very straightforward and said directly that he wanted to leave and leave the new world. What is his behavior? Bullshit behavior. He came to the new world to stir up trouble and make everyone uncomfortable. Then he slapped his butt neatly and walked away. Isn't that enough of a stir up? Ha 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 ha, you are not good at it? I will definitely do it next time, I will definitely do it next time, I will definitely do it with Orgrim next time. Shanks laughed and said. After finishing speaking, Shanks said directly without waiting for Katakuri to speak, but I guess you should understand the situation clearly, right, Big Mom Pirates? No way. Have you been here for us from the beginning? This sentence made Katakuri think of something in an instant. If Shanks' goal is regarded as the Warhammer Pirates, then this bastard can't do anything in the New World. He will eat whatever he wants and leave nothing behind. They had a lot of prostitutes from the Big Mom Pirates. But now this sentence gave Katakuri a new idea. What if Shanks's goal at the beginning was the Big Mom Pirates? The Warhammer Pirates are just a cover. What? Then this guy is Lao Yinbai? Ha ha ha, how is it possible to say this? I'm just reminding you because we get along very well, Shanks said shamelessly, without admitting it at all. Katakuri was silent for a while, already confirming Shanks' authenticity. Then, he said softly, you really didn't disappoint me. If Shanks was a loser who couldn't do anything, Katakuri would have lost his mind and would choose to board his ship. Wouldn't it be nice to choose someone else's ship? But now, that doesn't seem to be the case. Shanks guy, not that kind of real loser. Although his actions deceived the Big Mom Pirates, Katakuri didn't feel angry at all. On the contrary, he felt a little happy. However, Katakuri did not promise Shanks anything, but said, you are right, we do get along very well, maybe we can contact each other more often, but, it also depends on whether you have the ability to return to the New World. That's it for now, I wish you all the best. After saying that, Katakuri hung up the phone directly, with a ferocious smile on his lips. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 473. Bihai, the warhouse of the Kingdom of Germa. At this time, the little brat Trafalgar Law was packing his luggage silently. He actually had nothing to pack, just a few clothes that he was packing. But if you look at him now, you will find that he is very different from before. The white spots on this boy's body were gone now. This symbolizes that his platinum lead disease has been cured. Yes, Nightingale had already eaten the fruit of the operation. The taste was not too sour and refreshing. I had already heard that devil fruit was unpalatable, but Nightingale finally tasted it. However, after eating the fruits of the operation, Nightingale's fate changed again. Ordinary people can indeed become the best doctors if they eat the fruit of surgery, but it requires not only the development of the fruit's ability, but also a large amount of medical foundation. But Nightingale was different. He was the most famous doctor in the world. For him, the results of the operation were as powerful as a tiger. In terms of combat, his abilities may need to continue to be developed, but in terms of medical treatment, he can use it as soon as he picks it up. On the third day after the operation, after getting familiar with some of the micro-operations, Nightingale brought Trafalgar Law into the operating room. A few hours later, Trafalgar Law was reborn. The platinum lead disease that once weighed on him and made people breathless would no longer be a constraint on him. But all of this was achieved by Rossi Nandi risking his life. Therefore, even though he had gained a new life, Trafalgar Law was not in a happy mood. After packing his clothes, Trafalgar Law opened the door expressionlessly. I happened to see Dr. Nightingale passing by the corridor with a teacup in her hand. There is no doubt that this is oolong tea. Doctor, Trafalgar Law had a look of gratitude on his face, and then he said to him, thank you very much. Nightingale looked very kind to Trafalgar Law and said with a smile, why are you thanking me? Treating diseases and saving people is what I should do, even though I am a pirate, ha 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 ha. Trafalgar Law smiled slightly and said, no matter what, you saved my life. It's appropriate to say thank you. Nightingale raised her brows slightly and smiled. Then he said, "You have changed a lot, kid. You looked like a dead man before." Indeed, before, Trafalgar Law looked disgusted with the world. Apart from Rocinante and Doflamingo, almost no one wanted to talk to him, and his expression was very disgusting. But now, although he is still a little stiff, it can be seen that the sun is much brighter. Having said this, Nightingale stopped teasing the brat and asked, "Are you leaving?" The young master wants to drive me away," Trafalgar Law said. In fact, he doesn't hate Doflamingo. When things have developed to this extent, it is completely different from the original story. In the original story, Doflamingo, directly his own brother, was beaten to death, and Trafalgar Law didn't know the whole story. He only knew that Doflamingo had a dark heart and originally planned to sacrifice Rocinante to gain eternal life, but later prepared to sacrifice himself. Therefore, Trafalgar Law will naturally fall out with Doflamingo. But now, Rocinante is seeking death on his own, and Doflamingo has fulfilled his brother's last promise, saved his life. And Lugo was not sure whether Rocinante was dead or not. In short, Doflamingo had never been sorry to Rocinante, nor to Trafalgar Law. On the contrary, in the past few years, Doflamingo has been taking care of him as his own son. As for taking him to do bad things, Trafalgar Law chose the path himself, and he tied explosives to see many people. Flamingo, can this be blamed on Doflamingo? Therefore, Trafalgar Law does not have any hatred for Doflamingo. But it is complicated, still very complicated. After all, Doflamingo made Rosindi's life or death unknown. This made Trafalgar Law feel very complicated. "Well, your young master is not in a very happy mood either," Nightingale said with some emotion. He knew the whole story very clearly. It can only be said that fate plays tricks on people. Even someone as smart as Doflamingo also suffered this disaster. But who hasn't? How about a story? Thinking of this, Nightingale took a sip of alcoholic oolong tea. She had no intention of saying anything to Trafalgar Law. Nightingale was still rushing to show it to Queen Thora. It depends on the condition. Now that the results of the operation have been obtained, Queen Sara's condition that is almost impossible to be cured now has hope. Gagey, this guy, is grinning at the corners of his mouth when eating, and he can't hold back his smile. Because during the whole incident, Orgrim had to go to the front line to grab the fruits of the operation. He was smoke Gagey, and he took advantage of it while lying down. Because of this, Gagey felt more and more that following Warhammer being a pirate gang has a bright future. If you join some big mom pirate gang or end up in trouble with the world government, you should be pulled down. You don't even know how you will die. I won't tell you any more, I still have things to do. The outside world is very dangerous, you little brat. Yes, with a hell messenger like you. What do I mean by saying this? You know better than me the stories of the sinister human heart. Nightingale said with a smile. After saying that, he ignored Trafalgar Law, held the teacup, and walked swaying outside. Just as he was about to disappear around the corner of the corridor time, Trafalgar Law suddenly he shouted, "Doctor! Is a bastard like me qualified to learn medicine and save people?" Nightingale paused for a moment, with a smile on her lips, picked up the teacup, took a sip and said, "My door is unlocked. In the third drawer on the table are my notes. Take it and get out of here. Think of it as a gift from me to you, brat. But when it comes to the sea, don't say it's me, Nightingale's apprentice, otherwise people will die. After all, I have many enemies." Trafalgar Law's eyes instantly filled with tears. After Nightingale finished saying these words, it had left the corner and disappeared from his sight. But Trafalgar Law still knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times respectfully. Nightingale walked out of the corridor, swallowed the tea in her mouth, and whispered softly, "Doctor, even evil spirits who have fallen into hell are qualified, save people." On the other side, Doflamingo, Orgrim, and Geiji are chatting. Please rest assured, I will definitely give my full support in this matter. From now on, my Vinsmoke family's business will only use checks from the Dark Bank of Avalon. If you want to buy my soldiers, you have to go through this procedure. Geiji assured, patting his chest. Many big guys in the dark world, Doflamingo has already said hello to him. Geiji, you say he is a big boss in the dark world, but he is a little bit worse. A little bit. But if you want to say that he is not, he really is. After all, in the dark world, Germa is the biggest business in the war mercenary business. Well, Dover has already negotiated with many people. When the time comes, you, Jiaji, will take the lead and implement this matter for me. Do you understand? Orgrim took a sip of tea and spoke very calmly. Geiji nodded without hesitation and said, Understood, Lord Hammer. He knows that Master Hammer is giving him a chance. Over the years, he has wanted to get closer to the Warhammer pirates every moment. But the problem is that the Warhammer pirates are such a big guy, and they are not a big mom pirate. The group of thieves rushed to the street. It's impossible for someone to say that they want to come over to be pawns, and Orgrim nodded to accept it, right? There are too many people like this in the sea, and it is easy to overwhelm the Warhammer pirates. It's complicated, and it will also cause a lot of troubles. Therefore, you must choose the best among them to find people who are meaningful to the Warhammer pirates, and these people must pass the trial. What is the trial? Only with Master Hammer's approval. Now, the big boss Orgrim has offered to give him a life, which means giving him a chance. If he performs well and can be recognized by Master Hammer, the relationship will naturally develop further. In the future it is not impossible to join the Avalon system. If you mess up, just wait for death. Mr. Hammer is not a good man and a believer. He never shows mercy when he kills people. Phew, Your Majesty Jiaji, we can take more care of you in the future, Doflamingo said with a smile. Seeing Orgrim relent, Doflamingo also knew that this guy Geiji has been a wife for many years, and now he has fallen into the eyes of Lord Hammer. The future may be uncertain. Then there will be a chance to take off. Wasn't it the same for me back then? Therefore, Doflamingo would not look down on Geiji's junior status. With his all-round appearance, it made everyone feel like spring breeze. He started talking to Geiji on the spot. Show good. Young master, you need to take more care of me. Geiji said with a smile. Orgrim raised his eyebrows slightly and said, after you finish this matter, I will inject capital into you and hand over the war mercenary business in your hands to Avalon Darkness. In the future the group will do it. I still say the same thing, Geiji, you want me to intervene in Bihai and help you withstand the pressure of the world government. If you can't do it, I won't cause such a big conflict with the world government because of you. You can't see clearly what's going on in the Bihai these days, right? Geiji's heart lifted a little, and he was thinking about Orgrim's words secretly. There is no doubt that after the Fervans incident, the world government's control over the North Sea has reached the peak of its power in history. Bihai, almost all the economic pillars of each big country are in the hands of the world government. This is enough to make the most important big countries in the North Sea become the best friends of the world government. Yes, the world government only needs to grasp the economic pillars, because in terms of politics and military, they were all captured by the world government hundreds of years ago. The commander-in-chief of the entire army has the right to mobilize the military of any participating country around the world. This is no joke. As for politics, the entire political circle, are all carried out within the world government system. Isn't it funny to say this? In the past hundreds of years, the only thing that the franchised countries have been able to compete with the world government is the economic system. But even so, they still have to pay taxes every year. Taxes should be paid with gold from heaven. The world government has been tightening the rules in this regard. But now, The economic pillars of several big countries in the North Sea have been taken away by the world government, so they are now worse than fish and meat on the chopping board. The world government can do whatever it wants to do. After several big countries in the North Sea are controlled, Geji, as a local snake, can naturally feel the changes in the North Sea. If things go on like this, there will inevitably be a second East China Sea. It is enough to see that the government attaches great importance to this place. At this time, it is indeed impossible for Orgrim to have trouble with the world government on this macro strategy for him. Otherwise, Orgrim will not be able to be a big boss, because he is a fool. Think about it. The moment he understood this truth, Geji seemed to realize that his ambition to let Germa dominate the North Sea seemed even more impossible to realize. As for seeking a piece of land or something like that, maybe there's something to be done. You can see clearly, Mr. Hammerji felt a little helpless, but he still said this. As long as you can see clearly, then I can explain to you in words that white people can understand. You want to let Germa dominate the North Sea. You are delusional. I don't have this ability. The world government is not made of clay. Before your Vinsmoke family he was able to do it because the world government was negligent. When he reacted, wouldn't it have disappeared, Orgrim said unceremoniously. Geza was not impatient at all, and listened to Orgrim's instructions very respectfully. But it is not impossible to seek a piece of land. Orgrim changed his tone and said. Geji's eyes lit up and he said, please help me, Mr. Hammer. Cleanse your name, cleanse your kingdom of Germa, at least on the surface. What is the world government's most taboo about you? It's your kingdom of Germa. The whole country is engaged in war, mercenaries in the dark world. Who can rest assured about such a franchising country? I wouldn't trust it, so business is business, and country is country. I'll give you a chance to do business with the Avalon Dark Group. You can also treat yourself well and clean up Germa. I'll wait for you. After finishing this matter, if I happen to be happy, I can tell you a message. Bihai is so big that there is no place for you, Germa, to stay, Orgrim said very calmly. Geji's eyes lit up and he was very excited. He didn't care about anything else. What he cared about was that Master Chui helped him to speak. As long as this can be done, with Master Chui's in terms of face, Germa is stable. As for how Mr. Chui can be happily happy, it depends on whether Gao Ji knows how to be a good person. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 474. Doflamingo was laughing and chatting with Orgrim and Geji. Suddenly he seemed to see something, and his originally smiling face gradually became stiff and gloomy. Orgrim also followed his gaze and saw outside the door, a kid wearing a spotted hat, holding a suitcase in his hand, standing at the door, silent, but with a hesitant expression. Trafalgar Law. Before leaving, he still wanted to see Doflamingo. Don't look at it, Trafalgar Law has been arranged to get out by Doflamingo. But Geji still did not restrict his actions. After all, this boy was indeed valued by Doflamingo. Who knows whether he will change his mind in the end? It was not convenient for him to interfere in this kind of thing. That's why Luo came here. Little Lord, Trafalgar Law suddenly called out. A flash of anger flashed in Doflamingo's eyes, and he slammed the teacup in his hand, hitting Trafalgar Law directly at his feet. In an instant, pieces of the teacup and tea splashed everywhere, staining all the brand new clothes on the boy's body. There was even a small cut on his face. Don't call me young master again, and didn't I tell you that after you're cured, don't show up in front of me again and stay away from me, Doflamingo cursed irritably. I don't know why, but he couldn't control his originally good temper when he saw Trafalgar Law. The scenes in the past, in turn, it was playing out in his mind. He shot his biological father, and this kid came to see him with a bomb strapped to him. Rossi Nandi was so miserable that he was covered in blood. These are things Doflamingo doesn't want to think about again. Orgrim shook his head with emotion, picked up the teacup and took another sip, not intending to meddle in others' business. Trafalgar Law's expression fluctuated slightly. He didn't care about the tea stains on his body and the wounds on his face. He couldn't help but ask, "Young master, Mr. Corazon." "That's right." Trafalgar Law came here just to ask him one last question about Mr. Corazon before leaving. He knew that when he left, he would be back to the lowest level. With his status as someone with nothing, it would be extremely difficult to know the news about Mr. Corazon. This was the last chance to ask, otherwise, it is very likely that he will never know whether Mr. Corazon is dead or alive for the rest of his life. Therefore, he still braved Doflamingo's anger and asked. "Roll," Doflamingo roared. Trafalgar Law's expression was a little stubborn, and his eyes were fixed on Doflamingo. The powerful aura on Doflamingo also suppressed him. Trafalgar Law's face was pale, his body was thin, he was shaking constantly, and there was cold sweat on his forehead. But even so, Trafalgar Law was still staring at Doflamingo, unwilling to give in. At this moment, Doflamingo seemed to see in this boy what he looked like when he came to see him with explosives strapped on. In just such a moment, Doflamingo softened his heart again. This kid has changed a lot. Rosinandi's idiot brother has changed his life and destiny. But after all, the stubbornness in him is still there. Thinking of this, Doflamingo put away his momentum. Trafalgar Law's feet gave way and he almost fell to his knees. "Impelton," Doflamingo said softly. Doflamingo didn't care about whether Rosinand was dead or not. On the surface, Doflamingo didn't care at all, but secretly, he actually investigated a lot. With his identity and ability, he wanted to. It was easy to find out the result. Therefore, he knew a few days ago that Rosinandi was not dead, and the naval marshal of the Warring States period protected him and helped him get a chance from the world government. Life. He was arranged to go to Impelton to be imprisoned. Perhaps, he would never be able to come out of it in this life, but he was not dead after all. This also made Doflamingo feel better. Did he not? Killing a blood relative again. No, he is no longer his blood brother. When he learned that Mr. Corazon was not dead, Trafalgar Law's expression suddenly became pleasantly surprised. He was originally worried about Doflamingo. Many of those complicated emotions dissipated in an instant. Trafalgar Law was not a fool. He had been with Doflamingo for a long time. He naturally knew how Doflamingo dealt with his enemies. Mr. Corazon betrayed him, and he betrayed him from the beginning as his brother and top cotter. Any pirate group, any boss. Rosinandi should be cut into pieces, shattered into ashes. And no one can say that Doflamingo did anything wrong. Even if it was his biological brother. But Doflamingo still did not kill Rosinand directly. Those 3 shots, guns and guns should be fatal, but guns and guns are not fatal. This is Doflamingo's mercy, and it can be regarded as the last bit of brotherhood. Therefore, Trafalgar Law did not feel that Doflamingo brother, what did he do wrong? Now that he is fine, he knows that Mr. Corazon is not dead, so he naturally has no complaints against Doflamingo. From now on, Doflamingo will only be kind to him. There is no grudge. He has no reason to go against Doflamingo. As for Mr. Corazon being captured and taken to Impelton, that has nothing to do with Doflamingo. Doflamingo was able to hold back his anger and not beat him to death on the spot, which was already very merciful. Should we still save him? Do you really think Doflamingo is the virgin? Mr. Corazon was taken to Impelton because he betrayed the Navy at the same time and messed up the Navy's mission. It's not Doflamingo's fault. Trafalgar D. Vasher R.O., the boy Logo suddenly yelled at Doflamingo. Doflamingo's expression was stunned. Orgrim's mouth showed a smile. D, the legendary enemy of God. But a mere surname means nothing. That guy Tkai is still D, isn't he also a street kid? But this anonymous name is very meaningful to Doflamingo, who was once a celestial dragon. However, Doflamingo didn't say anything after all. My name is Trafalgar, young Master D. Vasherluo. We may never see each other again, but if one day, the young master needs me, I will definitely be there, Trafalgar Law shouted. A smile appeared on Doflamingo's lips, but it only lasted for a moment. His face darkened, and he raised his hand and snatched the ball from Orgrim's hand. Teacup. With a confused expression on his face, Orgrim suddenly smashed the teacup in his hand out again. But this time, neither the tea nor the fragments splashed on Trafalgar Law. Roll. Who do you think I am? Do you need me to show my loyalty here? That day will never come, never appear in front of me again, Doflamingo scolded angrily. But Trafalgar Law had a smile on his face. He picked up his suitcase and turned around to leave. After this kid disappeared, the look on Doflamingo's face showed the anger also dissipated. He looked at the door with a somewhat hollow look. After a long time, he said, "Fly freely. My birdcage is not used to confine you." Trafalgar D. Vasherluo. At this moment, Orgrim said with some resentment, "That brat is free, yes, but I don't have to drink my tea, young master." Doflamingo just reacted and smiled sheepishly. "I'm sorry, Lord Hammer, drink from me." As he said that, Doflamingo reached out and touched the table and found nothing. Then he remembered that the first thing he smashed was his tea. Then he turned to look at Geiji. Geiji was stunned for a moment, and handed over the teacup in his hand with some hesitation. Just when Doflamingo was about to reach out to take it, Orgrim cursed angrily, "That's enough for you too. Geiji, you too, are you really going to hand it to him?" But after Orgrim cursed angrily, he was the first to laugh. Then, Doflamingo and Geiji also laughed. This time, the relationship between the relationship seems to be much closer, at least to Geiji. He lit a cigar, slowly exhaled a puff of smoke, and then glanced at Doflamingo. He knew that there were some words, Doflamingo was embarrassed to say it. But at this time, as a big boss, he would naturally step in to help his younger brother get things done. So Orgrim said to Geiji, "Geiji, you are also from Behi Big. Dover is a very awkward person sometimes. You will know if you get along with him more. If he is embarrassed to say something, I will tell him. That kid probably won't be able to leave Behi in a short time. You can secretly help take care of him. Be careful, don't let him die in a daze." Doflamingo turned his head and glanced at Orgrim in surprise. Geiji's expression was also a little surprised. But after that, he felt that Orgrim was right when he called him Hammer Lord. What is the style of a boss? This is the style of a boss. Follow Mr. Chui, and nothing else. As long as you don't get into trouble with Mr. Chui will take good care of you. This is how you have a future. I understand, Mr. Chui, young master, don't worry. Geiji said with a smile. The corners of Doflamingo's mouth moved slightly, and finally he said, "I didn't say this, and I didn't mean it either." "Gee ha 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 ha, yes, I said this." Orgrim responded with a laugh. At this moment, the phone bug Doflamingo carried rang. Doflamingo took it out, took a look at it, raised his eyebrows and said, "It's a family matter." After saying that, he didn't hesitate and picked up the phone directly. "Torrible, what's going on?" Doflamingo asked. As soon as he finished speaking, Torrible's sticky and disgusting voice came out. Orgrim looked like he had a toothache. To be honest, he has met all the leaders of Doflamingo's family, but the one he can't stand the most is Torrible, too disgusting. But who calls him Doflamingo's cotter? Doflamingo is very taboo about others saying that his cotters are not good. Therefore, Orgrim has never taken away Doflamingo's face. Dover Torrible called out in disgust at first, and then continued, "There is news about the golden fruit, in the New World. Doflamingo's expression lit up and he said directly, be prepared, I will go back now. If you can't wait, you take action first. No matter what, I will get the golden fruit. Who dares to follow us? If you grab it, kill whoever you want. What if it were the Yonko and the world government? Torrible asked. Doflamingo glanced at Orgrim after hearing this. Orgrim grinned with an evil smile and said, as long as it's not that guy Kaido, get rid of them all, that's what I said too. But come to think of it, Kaido won't have trouble with Orgrim and Doflamingo in this kind of thing. After all, the relationship between the two parties is good, and they both make money together. Doflamingo's with a smile on his lips, he asked, did you hear what Mr. Chui said? A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 475. New World, Gambling Island. Gambling. This is a lively and bustling island. But due to the nature of the island, darkness and chaos are naturally inevitable. At this time, a man who was singing was kicked out of a pub. Rolling, rolling, what to sing? Who is willing to listen to you sing? If you're a girl with big boobs, that's pretty much it. The waiter in the tavern drove the singing man out with a beating. The singing man seemed to want to beg, grabbing the waiter's hand and kept saying, just give me a chance, just once. I really need money. My wife is sick. Just tell your wife to die when she is sick. If you follow a loser like you will suffer while living, right? The waiter in the tavern pushed him very unhappily, not wanting to have any more entanglements with this man. However, this man still refused to give up. He had already sacrificed all his dignity for this. These days, he kowtows. He worked hard, sold songs, washed dishes and carried bags. He did almost all the jobs he could do. And they were all serious jobs. But in the end, the arrival of a disease made the already not wealthy family even worse. Yes, this man is Gilder Tetsalo. The ruthless man who even dared to chop and kill Gil of the celestial dragons in Marijoya's rage. Marijoya's fire failed to capture him his life. He escaped from that hell with Stella. After that, he was ready to start a new life with Stella. However, both of them were escaped slaves and could not be too above board. And Tetsalo did not want to. He wanted to taint Stella, so he was unwilling to do those irregular jobs. Therefore, he could endure all the hardships for life and for Stella. He would do any dirty work. Originally, in his after such hard work, life gradually became more interesting. The two even bought a small house on Gambling Island. It was not a good location, not very big, and even a little dilapidated. But, after all, they had a home. Well, until Stella got sick. It was not serious, not a terminal illness, but it was not a minor illness either. Tetsalo needed money, enough money, to cure Stella. For this, he had already given everything. I have to go to the pier to carry bags during the day, doing the hardest work, and at night I want to come to the tavern to find a singing opportunity to earn some extra money so that I can treat Stella. But there is no shortage of singers on Gambling Island, and most of them they are all top-notch beauties. Who of the guests who come to the tavern to drink would like to see a man with no characteristics singing on stage? Therefore, Tetsalo has no chance at all. He can only beg and see who will be soft-hearted. Give him a chance, save Stella. Pushing Tetsalo away, the man fell to the ground. The waiter turned around and walked into the back door of the tavern, and slammed the door shut. His expression was a little painful. This was his 13th family, and no one was willing to accept him and give him a chance. It seemed that he couldn't make extra money today. With the money he earned from carrying bags at the dock, the family would not go hungry at most. Not many coins left. Stella, Tesoro murmured in pain. At this moment, the back door of the tavern opened again. It was the same waiter. He glanced at Tetsalo. His expression was a little unbearable. After all, he took out 50 belly from his pocket, threw it on the ground in front of Tetsalo, and said, "The boss won't let me, so I will. There is no way, this is the tip I just received, oh, just take care of yourself." After he finished speaking, he closed the door again. Tetsalo's expression was a little dull, but he still immediately picked up the mere 50 belly on the ground, gritted his teeth and kowtowed at the closed door. "Thank you. A penny can stump a heroic man. Reality, sometimes is so cruel. Who dares to believe that a loser who kowtows to express gratitude for 50 belly dares to chop up a celestial dragon on Mary Joa?" He returns home in embarrassment. At this time, Stella was still holding on to her body and cooking dinner for Tetsalo. Tetsalo hurriedly stepped forward, supported Stella, and said, "I told you, you have to lie down quietly on the bed. I will do these things." Cough cough cough, Stella couldn't help coughing, and there was a bright red blood stain on the corner of her mouth. Tetsalo felt heartbroken just looking at it and only hated his own incompetence. Just when Tetsalo was about to speak, Stella said weakly, "I'm fine, don't be too nervous." I have to say that Stella is indeed very beautiful, and even though she is ill now, she still can't hide her beauty. Tetsalo forced a smile and said, "I'm not nervous. Look, I went to sing today and a guest rewarded me with 50 belly. Although it's not much, it's a good start, isn't it? Starting tomorrow, I will come back a little later. You are at home alone. Close the door. Tetsalo, don't be too tired." Stella looked at him and said, "What are you tired of? You know, I like singing. This is my hobby. Now there is a pub that is willing to let me sing. I am very happy. I can still make money. It won't be long before I can ask a doctor to cure your disease. Don't worry. Well, your illness is not serious. We have gone through so many difficulties and obstacles together, how could we lose to life?" Tetsalo said with a confident smile on his face. After drinking the porridge, it was considered dinner. Tetsalo helped Stella lie down on the bed and said with a smile, "You rest first, I'll go and put the bowl in after washing, go to the door to get some fresh air. I'll be with you soon." Stella nodded obediently and responded. After clearing away the dishes, Tetsalo opened the door and walked to the door. There is no courtyard, just a hut facing the street in a small dilapidated alley. Tetsalo searched on the ground and found a half-smoked cigarette butt. He picked it up in his hand as if he had found a treasure. He took out an old and worn lighter from his arms and hit it a few times. The oil lighter was on, lighting up the remaining half of a cigarette that was smoked by more than one person. He was like a poor man, squatting in front of his home, looking at the bustling street in the distance. His eyes were filled with emotion and his expression was a little sad. At this moment, he saw a group of people wearing navy uniforms walking past on the street. The one at the head was a pretty and well-built female Marine. She was wearing a justice cloak and a lieutenant general's epaulets. She had a cigarette in her mouth and a saber at her waist. Among the navies in the New World, only the G-5 dares to run around. That woman looks familiar, she must be Lieutenant General Peach Rabbit, G-5's general candidate, right, Tezalo murmured softly. He didn't dare to look too much. After all, his status was very special. He was the runaway slave of Marie Joya. If he was caught, he would die. But he was also very confused in his heart. Why did the Navy come here? Yes. Although Gambilan Island is not the territory of any major pirate group, the pirate power on this island is not small. Could it be that Lieutenant General Peach Rabbit is also a bad gambler? Tezalo thought in his heart. But soon, he no longer thought about these things. In his mind, he recalled the blood stains on the corners of Stella's mouth just now. There is no doubt that due to lack of timely treatment, Stella's condition has worsened. He needs Bailey and money. As early as in the Shampoo Islands, when Stella was bought by the Dam Draco, Salo realized one thing, and that was the importance of Bailey. Sex. If there was enough money, Stella wouldn't have to go through those nightmare lives. They should have had a lovely child long ago, right? If there were enough money, Stella wouldn't have to suffer with him now, let alone be tortured by these illnesses. Looking across the street at the lavish gambling street, Salo bit the handle of his cigarette, took a deep breath, burned out the last shreds of tobacco, and then slowly smoked. Spit out. Stella, I will definitely save you. If I can't survive, what else can I hold on to? Bottom line, that's not a threshold set for people like me who can't survive. A fierce look flashed in Salo's eyes, and he murmured softly. In his mind, he recalled the scene in Marigio when he pinned the fat-bellied celestial dragon who had bullied Stella on the bed and chopped off his gill. He remembered how ferocious he was when he chopped him into pieces in a fit of rage. I am Gilder Salo. I dare to kill even Tianlong people. Now, the woman who wants to save me. Do you want a fucking bottom line? I want to live a decent life, but there is no chance. In this case, don't blame me. How can we survive in this damn world if we don't eat people? He stood up, turned around, and went back to sleep with Stella. But when Stella's breathing stabilized, Salo's eyes, which were originally closed, suddenly opened. He crept up from the bed and glanced at Stella, who was sleeping soundly and still a little weak. There was regret in her eyes, but soon they became ruthless and determined. I will definitely save you, even if I enter this damn hell again, Salo whispered softly. He turned around and walked into the kitchen. When he came out again, there was a kitchen knife hanging on his waist. Salo left the house quietly, while she, who had closed his eyes and slept soundly, Della opened her eyes and looked at the empty house. A tear fell from the corner of her eyes and she murmured, "It's all my fault, Salo, blame me. No matter what hell, no matter where you go, I will go with you." On the other side, Jun, the Navy boss, was walking on the bustling gambling street with a few men who looked like bullies like G-5. Arriving in front of a low-end gambling house, Jun took a puff, spit out the cigarette in his mouth, and dropped it on the ground. Then, very unladylikely, she stepped forward and stepped on the cigarette handle, twisted her ankle, blew out a puff of smoke and said, "The guy the marshal wants is inside, right? The eldest sister, according to the intelligence, is inside." The Navy following Jun responded immediately. "Ha ha ha, the marshal directly promised the position of lieutenant general. Before that, I should try this guy's level," Jun said with a sneer on his lips. The Navy's recruitment plan was finally launched. After the Warring States Marshal came back from Marijoya, he got the approval of the plan from the 5 old stars. Of course, he didn't take any time. He drafted it directly. The first batch of candidates did not have the green bulls in Orgrim's impression, but some random folk experts. The promised positions were also divided according to strength from the major of the headquarters to the lieutenant general of the headquarters. But here, there was only one person who promised the position of lieutenant general, that's right, the rotten gambler Fujitora Isho. Of course, Fujitora Isho didn't know that the Navy was targeting him at this time. This guy was running around in various casinos in the New World. Once, I happened to return to Gamblin Island. And Jun was appointed by the Warring States period to meet with him and talk about these things. However, Jun had a very explosive temper, even though the Warring States Marshal had recognized Fujitora Yasuke's strength, and after investigating his background, it was very clear. But Jun had no intention of letting Fujitora just smile and become an admiral at the Navy headquarters. He had to get through it first and see what he was capable of. In fact, Jun still had someone in his heart. An even more irritable thought: if this Fujitora smile is really okay, then I will cut off his beard. Wouldn't it be nice to stay in G-5? Anyway, G-5 has great autonomy and is independent of the naval system in the New World. Yes, you have the right to recruit troops. As for the Marshal of the Warring States period, what this means is, where can I be a navy, not a navy? How? Do you look down on me, G-5? Everyone is for justice. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 476. At this time, the gambling house was very lively, and gamblers of all sizes were shouting excitedly. Some people burst into laughter, some cried and howled. In the small gambling shop, all kinds of things in the world are present. Come on, I have good luck today. Anyone you can trust will follow me and bet this unlucky guy to death. The Sphinx stepped on the stool while laughing and greeting the gamblers around her. And in front of her, the person betting against her was none other than Fujitora Ichiko. Many years ago, the Sphinx, when she came to Gambelin Island to ask Doflamingo for the weapon fruit, she had a chance encounter with Fujitora Uxiao. At that time, she even gave all the chips in her hand to this bad gambler. But that was just a one-time encounter, and Fujitora never saw the Sphinx again after he smiled. This morning, the Sphinx passed by Gambling Island, and she had nothing to do, so she dropped in and wanted to gamble. The result was good. I met Fujitora Isho again. The two of them didn't have any friendship. They started betting when they met, and they have been betting until now. There were losses and wins before, but these few games, the Sphinx's luck seems to have improved. And defeated Fujitora in several hands. As a result, people also became arrogant. Facing the arrogant Sphinx, Fujitora was not angry at all. On the contrary, he actually quite liked this irritable little boy who always said "old mother." Lowly. He naturally knew the identity of the Sphinx, and even said that few people present did not know it. After all, the Sphinx has a great reputation. But Fujitora smiled, not with a sense of justice. See, he is a folk chivalrous man who must punish the evil party and eliminate evil. He has no serious status now, and he also knows that he cannot afford to offend big pirates like the Sphinx in the New World. So as long as the Sphinx does not do anything excessive, he had no intention of doing anything to the Sphinx. On the contrary, the two of them were considered friends. Ha 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 ha, don't be too proud, I think this is going to turn my fortune around. Fujitora said with a smile. Ha 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 ha, it's impossible, no one in the New World is luckier than me, the Sphinx laughed wildly. As soon as she finished speaking, the dealer opened the dice clock. The face of the originally arrogant Sphinx turned bitter in an instant, and she cursed angrily. You are really called this? The bad gambler is right. Fujitora smiled and winked at the Sphinx, and happily put away the chips in front of him. Are you coming again? Fujitora smiled and asked the Sphinx. Come on, I have plenty of money, Sphinx patted her own airport and said very proudly. She was not angry because she lost money. She still had a lot of stomach. What's more, Sphinx did have a lot of money. Come here, isn't it? Those who come here to win money come here to have fun. When the croupier rolled the dice clock, Sphinx also looked at Fujitora, smiled, and asked, I said, how many years has it been? Why are you still hanging around here? Fujitora smiled and said, is there anything wrong with this? The Sphinx was stunned for a moment, then grinned and said, there's nothing wrong with it, ha 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 ha. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it? I don't have anything to do anyway. Fujitora said with a smile. You should be very powerful. Do you want to join our Warhammer pirates? I will introduce you to you, and you will be my little brother from now on. You can walk around the New World as you like. There is no cost to place a bet, the Sphinx said with a smile at Fujitora. Ha 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 ha, forget it, if you don't spend money, what else do you call betting, Fujitora smiled and rejected Sphinx's invitation. Sphinx was not angry at all. He curled his lips and said, "Are you really going to be a bad gambler?" "Not necessarily. Not long ago, I was planning to participate in the Navy recruitment, but it seems to be just a rumor, so forget it." Fujitora smiled and said without any concealment. Sphinx was stunned for a moment, and then said unhappily, "You guy, I invited you to be a pirate, it's inappropriate for you. Why do you want to be a rubbish Navy? What can the Navy do? Are we as powerful as we are? Doesn't it seem as powerful as yours?" Fujitora smiled and said with the same smile, "That's right, it doesn't matter what they want. How can they be as majestic as our Warhammer pirates? I'll give you another chance. Do you want to join me and I'll ensure that you are well off and prosperous?" The Sphinx patted his chest again and said, "Even though you look like this, you actually have justice in your heart." Fujitora smiled and shook his head, refusing again. "You shouldn't be such a boring person," the Sphinx muttered dissatisfiedly. "Ha ha ha ha, I think it's quite interesting." Fujitora smiled and laughed. "Forget it, everyone has their own ambitions. Since you don't want to, I won't force it. But here, we can still be called friends. For the sake of fate, if you really become a Navy in the future, I will, having met you, letting you go is not a problem." The Sphinx didn't force anything, and didn't even care about Fujitora's thoughts, and spoke loudly. Fujitora laughed too, finding this little loli more and more interesting. He also patted his waist. "Zhangdao said if such a day comes, I will let you go as appropriate, and I should give back the bargaining chips I had back then." "Ha ha ha ha, you have a loud tone. Okay, let's see who is more capable then," the Sphinx laughed boldly. But before Fujitora smiled and spoke, as soon as the dice clock fell, the door of the gambling house was opened. Then, Jun stepped forward with his long slender legs. Walked in bravely. The Sphinx was looking at the dice clock. Hearing the movement on the other side, he raised his head slightly and his expression was stunned. At this time, Jun, who was looking for Fujitora's smile, also I happened to look towards the Sphinx, and then I was stunned. What the hell do the people in the intelligence department do? The big cotters of the Warhammer pirates are right under your eyes, and you don't even know. What a waste. Jun didn't come to trouble the Sphinx. She didn't even know the Sphinx was here before she came. But the Sphinx was very determined in her heart. The Navy G-5, the general candidate, suddenly appeared here, and he looked like he was looking for someone when he entered the door. Who could he be looking for? He must be looking for my mother. After all, I am the only big boss here who can be attacked. He can't be here to find him. Is this a bad gambler in front of her? And the Navy boss suddenly came to her. What can he do? It must not be a good thing. So after being stunned for a second, the Sphinx kicked the gambling table over with a fierce kick, and at the same time with extremely fast hand speed, he grabbed the revolver hanging on his waist in his hand. Bang bang bang. 3 shots were fired without hesitation. The bullet grazed Fujitora's smiling ear and passed. As soon as the gunshot rang out, the casino instantly became chaotic. Jun's movements were not slow either. The moment the Sphinx took action, Jun's reflexes as a top master of the animal-type phantom species burst out. The figure twisted on the spot a few times and directly avoided the Sphinx's bullet. Then, the grumpy Jun had no intention of talking nonsense. "I am a senior general in the Navy. I didn't even draw the sword, but you, a pirate, dare to shoot first. No matter what the calculation is, she can draw the sword. It's reasonable." Marshal of the Warring States period knew about it, but he couldn't find a way to criticize him. A flash of cold light flashed, and the Kimpira in Jun's hand was instantly unsheathed and slashed towards the Sphinx. "You G-5 Navy are so brave. If you dare to come to the New World to cause trouble for our Warhammer pirates, I will shoot you in the head." The Sphinx stepped on his feet, dodged the slashing blow, raised his hand and fired 2 shots. The Kimpira in Jun's hand swung left and right in front of him, knocking away the Sphinx's bullet. Scolded angrily, "Don't be too arrogant, pirate. Not to mention that I'm not here to find you. Even if I, the G-5 Navy, really want to cause trouble for you, a pirate, even if you are hiding in Avalon, I dare to chop you. Not here to find me." The Sphinx was stunned for a moment, but the movement in his hand continued, and he fired 2 more shots at Jun. Jun knocked away a few bullets again, and his heart became even more angry. He exerted force under his feet, the figure rushed towards the Sphinx like a rabbit, and Jin Pila also followed with a piercing cold light. "I believe your lies," the Sphinx cursed. He also exerted force on his feet and rushed towards Jun without any hesitation. However, after taking the first step, the Sphinx's figure changed, and his head instantly transformed. Made a huge bolus with several spikes. "Mace," the Sphinx roared angrily. Jun slashed the Sphinx's head with his sword, and then a powerful armed haki attack burst out. In just a moment, in the casino, everyone except Fujitora smiled and sat down. In addition, the rest of the guys who were hurriedly running for their lives were all thrown away by this powerful domineering force. The roof of the casino, which was not that big, was directly lifted off, and the walls collapsed. Just there, when Sphinx and Jun were wrestling, both of them suddenly felt a change in their aura. Then, the two of them sank suddenly, and the ground cracked. Both Sphinx and Jun were withstanding this inexplicable pressure. He released his strength at the same time and pulled away from him. "Hello. Bad gambler, whose side are you on? Are you really prepared to join the Navy here?" The Sphinx returned to her Lolita appearance and asked Fujitora with an angry smile. There is no doubt that he must have taken action just now. This mysterious man was the only one present who was qualified to intervene. The battle between Sono and the Sphinx. With a click, Fujitora smiled and returned the half-unsheathed sword to its place. Then he said helplessly, "You two, even if you want to take action, don't stay here. It's not good to hurt innocent people." Jun's brows furrowed slightly. She had no intention of taking action initially, but the bastard Sphinx came up and shot her a few times. What if she didn't take action? Get beaten? Too lazy to argue with you, a crazy woman, Fujitora smiled. "I'm here to find you this time." Jun first glared at the Sphinx, then smiled at Fujitora and said. The Sphinx frowned slightly. Isn't this dead woman in Mr. Hammer's mouth really here to cause trouble for her? Just now. It was just because Sphinx felt that he was in trouble, so it was reasonable to strike first. Now the situation seems to have changed. Although Sphinx is crazy, he is not really brainless and will not give it to Lord Hammer casually. To cause trouble. Therefore, Fujitora smiled and treated her as a third party, and she did not take the lead again. Of course, if this dead woman Jun still dares to make trouble with her, she, the Sphinx, will explode today her head. Next. Fujitora smiled and was stunned for a moment. He thought just now that Jun was here to trouble the Sphinx. How come he turned around and turned out to be here to find me? I don't have any gambling debts to the Navy, right? Fujitora asked with a puzzled smile. By order of the Warring States Marshal, you, Fujitora Isho, are recruited to join the Navy headquarters and awarded the rank of Lieutenant General. Jun didn't talk nonsense and said directly. Fujitora smiled and was completely confused. How can there be such an operation? Starting directly as a lieutenant general? The Sphinx was also shocked. When he came back to his senses, he didn't realize it. He said without hesitation, "You rotten gambler, don't listen to her nonsense. The Navy always talks nonsense. Come to the Warhammer Pirates, I will be your guarantee for Master Hammer and give you a cotter position. Do you want to die? Do you really think I dare not kill you?" Jun said with a touch of anger in his eyes. Sphinx raised the pistol and said to Jun, "Are I afraid of you? Seeing these two hot-tempered women about to fight again if they disagreed, Fujitora smiled and said quickly, "Don't fight, just talk to me if you have something to say." "I have nothing to say to her." Fujitora smiled. "If you are willing, there is an opportunity now. Come with me and take down this crazy woman. Return to the headquarters. I will give you the position of alternate general," Jun said coldly. "Ha ha ha ha, what a coincidence, you rotten gambler, you and I will take this woman back to Avalon and give it to Mr. Hammer as a bed warmer. I will give you my position as a senior cotter." The Sphinx also laughed. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 477. Tetsalo originally planned to carry a kitchen knife and go to the dock to find a few smugglers who usually bullied them and bullied the contractors. Kill them and cash out directly. As a result, halfway through the journey, chaos broke out in the bustling gambling street. Gunshots rang out and a gambling house was blown up. Tetsalo was confused by this order. At the same time, he also understood that in such a chaotic place, now was an opportunity. How can those smugglers have money in gambling houses? Now that the gambling house has exploded, if he fishes in troubled waters, maybe he can become rich overnight. When he arrived at the gambling house, he found that most people were running out. This is true, most of the people who can come to the gambling house are rich people, and they are more precious about their lives. After passing through 2 rooms, Tetsalo also saw clearly the situation over there. His, leader of the Warhammer pirates, that rampaging lowly Sphinx. "Is this against the Navy's admiral candidate?" Tetsalo said in shock. If there was any other trouble, he would dare to join in the fun, but now. Whether it is the Navy's general candidate or the senior cotter of the Warhammer pirates, he cannot afford to offend him at all. Existed. But he was a little reluctant to ask Tetsalo to give up this opportunity. Just when Tetsalo hesitated, he looked at the only man in the field who he didn't know and nodded apologetically at the Sphinx. After saying something, he walked up to the general candidate. Just when Tetsaro thought they were going to fight 2 against 1, the general candidate, Lieutenant General Peach Rabbit, took the man and turned around to leave. Sure enough, this is a new world, and the Navy doesn't have the guts to challenge the Warhammer pirates yet. It should be a misunderstanding. Tetsalo felt a little more at ease. Then, he glanced around and saw a safe among the rubbish in front of him. There was a safe under the weight of rubbish. The safe had been deformed by the backlog, revealing a big hole. And through the stars with the little light, Tetsalo could barely see what was inside. Gold. After being hit, the gold bars were scattered messily inside the safe. "With this gold, I can cure Stella's disease, recruit some people, and no longer be bullied." This was the first thought that came to Tetsalo's mind. Then, he no longer hesitated. The gold was right in front of him. No one knew if there were any desperados like him around here. If you don't get it now, the opportunity will be there in a blink of an eye. Death. Thinking of this, Tetsalo stepped on his feet, stooped, and quietly wanted to touch there. On the other side, the Sphinx put away the revolver, very unhappy at this time. That bastard the gambler actually left with that dead woman from the Navy. It shouldn't be a special case, right? There were rumors last year that the Navy headquarters was going to launch a second round of recruitment, but it didn't happen at all. Today's scene, could this be what the rumored conscription means? Directly recruit bad gamblers and other private masters to serve as senior generals in the Navy headquarters, Sphinx whispered softly. Although she is usually crazy, she is not stupid, she just doesn't like to use her brain to think, but she just thinks. Now calm down and think about it. Sphinx seems to understand what are the Navy headquarters doing. Filling up the high-level combat power of the headquarters is exactly what Mr. Chui said. This guy from warring states is ambitious and will not give up entering the new world. First, he conquered the Shishibukai, and then recruited civilian masters to join the ranks of senior generals. If he follows this strategy, the Navy's power will expand rapidly, thought the Sphinx. You have to tell Master Chui about this. The Sphinx calmed down and decided. Then, she seemed to hear something. Turning around, she saw a man squirming on the ruins not far away, digging for something. The Sphinx raised his eyebrows slightly, pulled out the revolver he had just put back, raised his hand and fired 2 shots. Bang bang. 2 bullets hit the ground next to Tetsalo. Tetsalo, who was digging out the safe, shuddered and couldn't help but swallow. Hey, what is that guy over there doing? The Sphinx asked with a raised eyebrow. Tetsalo looked up at the Sphinx, a little scared in his heart, but thinking of Stella, he still mustered up the courage to say, grab the money. This straightforward and rude answer stunned the Sphinx for a moment. The originally gloomy mood also dissipated. Ha ha ha, good job. I think you have the potential to be a pirate, so do your best, the Sphinx laughed. Fujitora smiled at the bad gambler, said something about justice in his heart, turned around and followed the Navy man. This made the Sphinx very unhappy, but after a while turning around, she saw someone grabbing money, which made the Sphinx happy again. She couldn't tell where this happiness came from, but she was just happy. Maybe it was the evil nature? I ignored Tetsalo. The Sphinx didn't care about money, gold or other things. She didn't lack these. This is a bullshit place. I will never come here again. I thought I could have fun when I came here, but I ended up encountering such a terrible thing, the Sphinx muttered while cursing, and walked away from the ruins. Tetsalo also looked at the little loli who left cursing in confusion at this time. He thought the Sphinx will come over and snatch away all his gold. In the end, she actually encouraged herself. Is it good to rob? For a moment, Tetsalo seemed to think that what she said made sense. There is nothing better than robbing in this world. Is there an industry where money is more profitable? Who is the industry leader in money grabbing? Pirates. Who is the boss in pirates? Warhammer Pirates. If you had the chance to join the Warhammer Pirates, wouldn't it be a great job? The Navy doesn't even dare to touch me. When the time comes, appear openly and openly on the sea, Tetsalo murmured. But soon, he gave up this delusion. What is his identity? He's just a runaway slave, and he doesn't have much ability. Why did the Warhammer Pirates accept him as their younger brother? Let's talk about making money now. Tetsalo murmured softly. Then, he quickly dug out the broken safe. There was no bag, so taking advantage of the darkness, Tetsalo picked up the safe and ran back home. At the door of the house. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Stella sitting weakly on a hard chair, with an anxious and uneasy look on her face, waiting for him. This made Tetsalo feel a pain in his heart, and he said, "Why are you up?" Stella originally wanted to say that I didn't fall asleep at all. But she finally said, "I heard it was noisy outside, and I found you weren't there." Seeing Tetsalo come in carrying a safe, Stella thought that the noise outside was caused by Tetsalo, and felt very panicked. "Do you want to play this big?" Don't worry, it's the Navy." The Navy's candidate for general, Lieutenant General Pichio Sajai, had a conflict with the big leader of the Warhammer Pirates, Rampage Lolita Sphinx. They started fighting in the gambling street, and I happened to take advantage of it. This opportunity, I picked up a safe. Look, we are going to get rich. Stella, your disease will be cured soon, and we will be rich. Tetsalo put the safe on his shoulder on the ground and said. As he spoke, he squatted down, took out 2 gold bars from the hole, and showed them to Stella excitedly. Stella didn't care whether Tetsalo's gold came from the right source. Stella had already made up her mind the moment Tetsalo went out with a kitchen knife. No matter what this man would become, he would still be her own Tetsalo, the one who saved her from hell. That Tizero who dared to kill the celestial dragons for her. That's enough. It's all up to you, Tizalo. Stella smiled and said softly. Tetsalo was stunned for a moment. He knew the meaning of Stella's words and was a little moved in his heart. He understood that even if he had this gold, it was nothing. Without your own strength, this gold is even more dangerous. You can't keep the gold in your hands and spend it slowly, you must quickly transform the gold into power. After Stella's illness is cured, this gold can be used just right. Come to the pier, gather your own team, and kill all those bastard snake heads. He wants to establish his own foothold in Gambling Island, Gambling Island. He wants to be a boss here. The legend of the Golden Emperor begins tonight, and started writing. Doflamingo found the news about the golden fruit and wanted to rush back to the New World. Orgrim didn't plan to stay in the North Sea for much longer, and was preparing to leave with Nightingale and return. Melva treated the brains of the family Boskage. Seeing this, Gadget also patted his head and prepared to go to the New World with Orgrim and the others. There is no way. Is Dr. Nightingale okay? It was easy to get the fruits of the operation. His favorite woman, Sola, was about to be cured. How could he give up at this time? He couldn't restrain Nightingale's actions or Master Hammer's thoughts. Then change what away, just follow along. Take sorrow with you, maybe the disease will be cured in the New World. In addition, it is really time for him to go to the New World, support Doflamingo and save Ava. Done with the affairs of the Long Dark Bank. By the way, divide your war mercenary business and incorporate it into the Avalon Dark Group, and start to whitewash Germa. Let the Warhouse and other things stay in Beehive for now. Gagi only plans to take Sara and Raja to the New World. Sara is here to cure the disease, and Raju is of course used to build a good relationship with Big Beckman. Now Hammer finally gives him a chance. Why didn't he quickly pave the way in Avalon? In this way, Orgrim and others quickly left the North Sea and headed towards the New World. Then, before he could reach the New World, they were attacked. Got the Sphinx's contact and found out about Fujitora Uxiao. Now, Orgrim was really surprised. He didn't expect that Sengoku, the naval marshal, was so cruel. He actually started the Navy's recruitment plan in advance. Fujitora smiled. This fierce man had already joined the Navy and became a lieutenant general in the Navy headquarters. After being surprised, Orgrim had to admire Marshal Sengoku's decisiveness, skill, and courage. If this plan is Sakaski started it and implemented it. There is no doubt that the factions within the Navy will be divided a lot. These new senior generals may stir up the unity atmosphere of the Navy headquarters. Facts have proved that that's it. But if it's the Warring States period, with his methods and status, Orgrim believes that he should be able to suppress folk masters like Fujitora Uxiao. This guy will sit in the position of marshal for at least 10 years and 80 years. By then, these civilian masters will definitely be fully integrated into the Navy. Some hidden dangers will be eliminated directly and invisible. However, if the Navy does this, Orgrim will not have any good reaction. He can't call everyone not to join the Navy if he wants to control it, right? What he said must be useful. So after knowing it, Orgrim was surprised and didn't say anything else. Later, he learned some more information. For example, the red-haired pirates did withdraw from the New World. They appeared once on the Shampoo Islands and then disappeared, unknown to where. Orgrim didn't care much about Shanks, who left the New World in despair. But he was really a little surprised. This guy's ability shouldn't be so bad. But after much deliberation, I haven't found any. What a strange place. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 478. New World Melview. There are still green mountains and green waters here, looking like a fairyland on Earth. Orgrim hasn't been back here for a long time. After all, this is Shaji's lair. He is now the leader of the Warhammer pirates. It's not good to come here often. Just like Shiki also knew that it was not good for him to go to Avalon often, so he resisted the idea of going to sea and dressed, and spent most of the time quietly staying in Melview. But today, Shiji was in a happy mood. Because Mihawk came to Melview with his precious grandson. In the courtyard, Andrest was holding a sword that matched his height and figure, and was showing Shiki, Orgrim, and others what he had learned recently. Orgrim couldn't tell what his name was. He only knew that this kid couldn't slash or do any fancy things. It's not very entertaining either. However, Shiji's expression was very satisfied. He couldn't help but clapped his hands and said, "Well, he is indeed my grandson. Mihawk, you have given him a solid foundation." Mihawk's expression was still cold. With arrogance, he listened to Shiji's words, nodded and said, "Well, after all, we swordsmen, the most important thing is the foundation. The more stable the foundation is, the farther we will go in the future." After a slight pause, he spoke again, said, "But Andre's physique is very good, that's why he can train to this level. When I was his age, my basic skills were not as solid as his. If I continue to practice in this direction, he will not be inferior to me in the future. Yes. Although Mihawk is very talented. But his physique is not as abnormal as Andre's, and he inherited his father's immortality. Therefore, Andre's training intensity is much greater than that of ordinary people at this stage. Even Mihawk could not catch up when he was a child. Therefore, Andre's basic skills are better than Mihawk at this time. Mihawk is very happy about this and thinks that his disciple will become stronger in the future." Orgrim sat aside and listened to the two men bragging about his son, and he was in a very happy mood. He picked up the teacup and took a sip, looked at Shiji aside, and asked Boss Shiji, "How are you feeling? Have you recovered today?" Shiji smiled when he heard this, and did not answer anything, but raised his head. With a squeeze of his hand, the power of armed domineering energy instantly appeared on his palm, making it extremely dark. Orgrim's eyes lit up, he observed it, and then said, "It's still far from good, this is just a novice level." Looking at Shiji now, there was no longer that funny rudder on his head. That's right, after Nightingale arrived, he casually removed the rudder from Shiji's head without any danger at all. The results of the operation were so powerful in this regard. At this time, Shiji had returned to his blonde hair and domineering and majestic appearance. But what is a little embarrassing is that the place where he is stuck on the rudder is already a lot bald. Of course, maybe after a period of recovery, the golden hair will still grow back. Gee ha 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 ha, that's right. I haven't felt the power of domineering for a long time. How many days has it been? I am very satisfied with this kind of recovery." Shiji laughed and said. Before that, Shiji's three-color domineering power had completely dissipated. His strength fell to the lowest point in history. In addition to his ability being still domineering and his swordsmanship still so powerful, he can no longer use his haki. He can no longer feel his armed aura, his knowledge aura, and even his overlord aura. But after the rudder in his mind was removed, Shiji has been able to feel his strength recovering in the past few days. Although armed color haki is only for beginners, being able to use it is a kind of progress. I believe that it won't be too long, even if the power of this haki cannot be fully restored, it can still be restored to some extent. Of course, Shiji also knows that after so many years of ups and downs, it is probably impossible for him to return to his peak state. But if he can recover 70% to 80% of his strength, he will also be the top pirate. That group of people. That's true. Orgrim nodded in response. Then after a slight pause, Orgrim asked again, "Now that your strength has begun to recover, Boss Shiji, are you ready to go to sea again?" Shiji's eyes fluctuated slightly, then he shook his head and said, "Forget it, I have no such plan for the time being." "Yeah," Orgrim curled his lips, but didn't say anything. "What are your next plans?" Shiji suddenly asked. Orgrim touched his chin and said, "There is no plan, just go step by step." To be honest, at the level of Orgrim and others, no matter Kaido, Whitebeard, or Charlotte Lingling, they don't make any big moves. They all develop step by step. Often the Emperor pirates won't see any movement for a few years. You have reached this position. Logically speaking, shouldn't your next step be to win the title of Pirate King? Don't you plan to go find Rafdru or something? Shiji smiled and asked. Gee ha 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 ha, One Piece? Orgrim laughed loudly. Then, he shook his head slightly and said, if you find Rafdru, you can become the Pirate King. This is indeed true, but if you are not strong enough, who can be convinced, and who am I, Orgrim? Why follow Roger's old path? So what path are you going to take? Shiji asked. Overwhelm all the heroes and be the most dazzling hero of this era. When I defeat them all, I will naturally become the Pirate King. Then I will go find some Rafdru. Isn't it delicious? Orgrim grinned and said with an evil smile. There is no doubt that the route Roger took was the royal route. As a pirate, he searched for the end of the world, traveled a full circle around the Grand Route, and boarded the go up to Rafdru and become the recognized Pirate King. Orgrim can indeed go this way. There are also such recognized people in the sea. If you find Rafdru, you can become the Pirate King or something. But Orgrim doesn't want to. In doing so, why should he follow Roger's old path? To be the Pirate King, he also wants to take a domineering route, become the strongest pirate, the strongest pirate group, and wipe out all those who are not convinced by his forces in the New World. Unify the pirates of the New World. By then, there is no need to find Rafdru, he is also the Pirate King. As for whether to find Rafdru or something, it all depends on his mood. After all, Orgrim is not very interested in this stuff. He has no intention of subverting the world government. As for the secrets from 800 years ago, that's about it. People still have to live in the present. Gee ha 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 ha, you are right, why are you looking for Rafdru? To become the king of pirates, it depends on whether you are strong enough or not. Shiki laughed and said. Shiki, like Newgate, is also the kind of person who has no interest in Rafdru. They all have one thing in common, that is, living in the present. And with their unruly attitude, and are unwilling to follow Roger's old path. The same is true for Orgrim. In their eyes, as long as he is strong enough to convince everyone, wouldn't he be the Pirate King? If there were no Orgrim, if Mew were here, this era would be Newgate's Whitebeard era. How does one say about Whitebeard? He stood in front of the throne and completed his dominance. He didn't sit on the throne of the Pirate King, not because he incapable, but because he doesn't care. He has put his own stamp on the era. His dominance has been completed. In the Whitebeard era, there was no pirate stronger than him, so he is the pirates, the uncrowned king. But now, because of the emergence of Orgrim, although there is also the saying belonging to the era of Whitebeard. But after the Battle of Butter Island, this saying is not very popular. Another kind is more popular on the sea now, that is to say, this is the era of competition between black and white. Needless to say, white is naturally Whitebeard. Black, in fact, needless to say, is the king of the night, Kazguro's Orgrim. However, neither Whitebeard nor Orgrim expressed any opinions on this statement. It is useless to say it. Instead of talking nonsense, it is better to kill the opponent realistically. But for now, neither side made much action. To be precise, there was no suitable time. Just when Orgrim and Shiski were having a heart-to-heart chat. At this time, in the first half of the Grand Line, the desert country of Alabastan's prosperous town Rainland. This Rainland is also a famous place in the first half of the Grand Line. It is the most famous casino in the first half of the Grand Line. Written by Wang Shi Shibukai, Sand Crocodile, and Crocodile, it has been built for almost 10 years. In the past 10 years, the prosperity of Rhineland has continuously stimulated Alabasta's economy and brought many benefits to Alabasta. And Crocodile, from challenging White after Beard's failure, he never entered the New World or even left Alabasta. In Alabasta, he obtained the status of a noble and became a knight. At the same time, due to the sweeping wave of the Great Pirate Age, later, Crocodile also seized the wave and actively fought against the pirates who invaded Alabasta, maintaining the stability and prosperity of Alabasta. This gave him a very good reputation in Alabasta, and he was known as a national hero. No. Nowadays, in the pirate industry, most people have forgotten him. Even the Navy headquarters believes that Crocodile is madly whitewashing himself and preparing to go ashore and become a noble. For to be honest, the Navy headquarters likes to see this kind of thing. Although in terms of strength and reputation, Crocodile is one of the trash cans in the Shishibukai. But when it comes to fulfilling his duties, Crocodile really does his duties. He is the oldest Shishibukai in the entire Shishibukai sequence, the first Shishibukai, and the Shishibukai who has fought the largest number of pirates. It made the warring states marshal sometimes want to give him a medal. It is precisely because Crocodile is very dedicated to his duties that his reputation is second only to Moonlight Moria's trash among the 7 seas of the king. Moonlight Moria is known as the weakest king of the Shishibukai, a loser among losers. Crocodile, among the pirates, is known as a naval lackey with no ambitions. Everyone thought that Crocodile wanted to clear his identity and go ashore, and no longer work as a pirate. But is this really the case? No, Crocodile has been holding back a big news. At this time, he was in the Rhineland, in the basement of the most prosperous casino in the first half of the Great Route called Yuyan. Crocodile is sitting in his boss chair. His appearance was more mature and weathered than it was more than 10 years ago. His temperament is also more mature. There is no such ferocity and brutality as in the pirate period. On the contrary, he has a bit more of a big boss feeling, gentle and elegant, but with a dark temperament. Is the information accurate? Crocodile's slightly magnetic voice asks softly. Precise das bonus, Crocodile's most trusted subordinate and deputy, was standing in front of his desk and reporting softly. There was a photo on the intelligence information Crocodile held in his hand. A woman who still has charm. If Orgrim was watching, he would definitely recognize that this woman is another survivor of O'Hara, Nicole Orbia. This woman originally said she was going to join the revolution, but for some unknown reason, she didn't go. Now, he is being targeted by the old Yinbai Crocodile. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 479. Alabasta's bustling port rapeseed flowers. In a hotel, Nicole Albia was sitting at the table, writing something in a notebook. Compared with O'Hara's period, Albia's appearance has not changed much, except for a few more wrinkles at the corners of her eyes. But this wrinkle did not make Albia look older. Instead, it added a different kind of charm to her, a mature charm. She still has a good figure, but there is an extra pair of glasses on the bridge of her nose. O'Hara's demise is history. At the very beginning, the world government and navy were still pursuing Orbia with all their might. That period of time was also the worst period that Albia had ever lived. She even sold her body for this and worked as a dancer for a while. But later, as time passed, the world government and the navy never caught her, and major events continued to occur one after another, and the times were turbulent. Therefore, the search for her has come to an end. The wanted order is still out, she is called O'Hara's demon, and there is a bounty of 200 million belly. But it's just wanted, nothing more. There are many wanted people on the sea, and she is one of them. Therefore, in the past 2 years, Albia's life has improved a lot, as the saying goes, knowledge is power. She has also become a little richer and no longer has to hide. Of course, there's nothing above board about it. Earlier, Albia was indeed planning to join the Revolutionary Army. But at that time, the Revolutionary Army had just started in less than 2 years, and Durag had little experience. That period was also the period when the Revolutionary Army had the worst reputation. Most of the revolutions that started turned into riots and massacres, which became tragedies. After understanding this, Orbia decisively gave up the Revolutionary Army. As for after that, it is true that the reputation of the Revolutionary Army was much better, but Albia did not look for or join it anymore. On the contrary, the Revolutionary Army was vigorously looking for her. Orbia learned that the Revolutionary Army was looking for and trying to decipher the historical text. But the purposes of both parties are somewhat conflicting. The Revolutionary Army is looking for the historical text, hoping to use this kind of thing to gain the title of Great Righteousness, overthrow the rule of the world government, and eradicate the celestial dragon class. But Albia is different, she inherits O'Hara's will. Orgrim also asked Dr. Clover, why should we go beyond our own capabilities to find the historical text and interpret the blank 100 years of history? The answer given by Dr. Clover is, they Orgrim do not want to overthrow the world government, they just want to protect the voices passed down from the past. The same goes for Albia. Her desire to interpret history is not utilitarian, and it does not have that much purpose. She just wants to protect the voice of the past. This is not very consistent with the Revolutionary Army. Therefore, she felt that in order not to become a tool for the Revolutionary Army, she had to have her own capital first. What is capital? For her, interpreting more historical texts is capital. The more capital she has in hand, the more say she will have if there is any cooperation with the Revolutionary Army in the future. After all, according to her understanding, it seems that the Revolutionary Army has collected several uninterpreted historical texts. If she wants to decipher the entire historical text, she must contact the Revolutionary Army. She also came to Alabasta recently. The reason for coming to Alabasta is very simple. The first point is that Alabasta is the oldest country of mankind. After O'Hara broke up, Alabasta is essentially the place with the richest archaeological culture. There are many scholars here and there is a lot of information. She has also obtained a lot of archaeological information through some means. The second point is that there are rumors that the royal family of Alabasta, the Nefertali family, holds a historical text in their hands, although it is not known what is recorded in the historical text. But as a descendant of the 20 former kings, Albia believes that this piece of historical text should be very important. Maybe we can unveil the mysterious and huge kingdom 800 years ago. So here she is, she wants to find that piece of history. Stretching, the mature woman's graceful, sexy, and charming figure was revealed by her. Orgrim didn't pay attention to her whereabouts. If he knew that she, Orbia, had been a dancer, he would have regretted it. Of course, don't get me wrong, I'm not regretting anything else, I'm mainly regretting that I didn't help Orbia. After all, she is Robin's mother, and since I can't do anything else to help, I should at least take care of her business. With Orgrim's generous style of doing things, maybe he would just do it for a year? After stretching a little tiredly, Albia pushed the frame on the bridge of his nose, and then reached out and took out a pocket watch from his chest. He opened it and glanced at the time, then focused on the photo inside the pocket watch. It was a photo of myself, my young self, and my young daughter Robin. Robin, Albia murmured softly. There were mostly nostalgia and guilt looks in his eyes. In Albia's knowledge, Robin was already dead, died in the tragedy of O'Hara. Although the world government called it a pirate disaster, it was said that O'Hara studied the text of history and was targeted by the big pirate Orgrim. So destroy O'Hara and all that. But as one of the parties involved, how could Albia not know the truth? The Navy's demon-slaying order is aimed at O'Hara, right? What Orgrim? He is just a scapegoat dragged out by the world government to take the blame. So she didn't hold a grudge against Orgrim. Of course, as a scholar of O'Hara, she didn't have a good impression of Orgrim, an enemy of humanity and a destroyer of culture. Just when Albia looked at the pocket watch in his hand, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. There was no clue, it was just a sixth sense. After being on the run for many years, she had great trust in this feeling. Therefore, Albia moved very quickly and stuffed the pocket watch into her snow-white chest. Then she picked up the notebook on the table and ignored the rest. She opened the window and prepared to jump out of the window and escape. But as soon as the window was opened, a stream of yellow sand rushed in and knocked her to the ground. "Crocodile," Albia said in shock and anger. As a scholar, he is still a wanted scholar wandering in the darkness. Of course, Albia is a person who is very familiar with all forces. The yellow sand of Alabasta, who else could it be besides King Shishibukai Sand Crocodile? Sure enough, after she finished speaking, the yellow sand that flew her away quickly condensed into a tall figure in the room. Figure. Ha 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 ha, Nicole Orbia. Crocodile smiled evilly and called out. He was wearing a black fur cloak and a golden hook on his left hand. With an evil smile on his lips, he looked at Albia. "What are you up to? Are you going to capture me and send it to the world government for credit?" Albia asked with a serious expression. Crocodile raised his brows slightly, reached into his pocket and took out a cut cigar, bit it on his mouth, lit it, and slowly blew out a puff of smoke. "She said you really think of me as a lackey of the Navy and the world government?" Albia's eyes fluctuated slightly, and she said, "Isn't it you?" "Maybe so." Crocodile smiled and said. Crocodile is still very confident about his reputation. But after losing to Whitebeard, he didn't care about it anymore. He didn't give Albia a chance to speak. Crocodile continued, "Don't worry, I'm not here to arrest you to claim credit for the world government." "So what are you going to do?" Albia was stunned for a moment, and then reached out to cover her chest. Crocodile's face froze. "Where did you think you were? No matter what Crocodile, I am still the king of the Shishibukai, right? He is still the national hero of Alabasta. Is there a woman coming to you hungry?" But I looked at Albia again and found that this woman is indeed beautiful and charming. However, Crocodile still has nothing it's exciting. Big guys like them will indeed pursue beauty, but they won't force it. Do not misunderstand. Crocodile said this first, and then said, "I have something I need your help with, so I invite you to join me." That's all. What's the matter? Albia already had some guesses in her mind, but she couldn't help but ask. Crocodile grinned with an evil smile and said, "As you guessed, I need to find a historical text. Publish the historical text of Alabasta, and you are responsible for deciphering the intelligence above. It's that simple." "Impossible, you are a pirate, I have no reason to help you," Albia said without hesitation. "Hum ha 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 ha," Crocodile laughed, then bent down, stretched out his hand to hold Albia's chin, and said, "Don't make any mistake, I am a pirate, but you are not a good person either. O'Hara's demon, with a bounty of 200 million belly, taller than me. We are different, I always adhere to the bottom line of a scholar," Albia said in a deep voice. "Yeah? That's really a pity, but I'm not here to discuss it with you, this is an order," Crocodile said coldly. Before Albia could speak, Crocodile continued as O'Hara's seed, "Do you want to taste the dryness?" As he finished speaking, a stream of yellow sand overflowed around him. Albia swallowed her saliva. She really didn't want to die and couldn't die because she was carrying O'Hara on her back. If she died, O'Hara would be completely extinct. The voices of the past can no longer be heard in the future. Can she be asked to work for Crocodile? Just when Albia was hesitant and confused, Crocodile seemed to see her thoughts and said softly, "Nicole Robin, your daughter is not dead, right?" Albia's eyes flashed, and her expression became shocked, but soon she said quickly, "Impossible, O'Hara. She is indeed not dead, and is alive and well. If you help me, after the incident is completed, I can give you the information about her whereabouts and reunite your mother and daughter." Crocodile said with an evil smile. Albia's eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. After a long time, she said, "If you lie to me, you will never get my knowledge." Crocodile smiled and said, "It's a pleasure to cooperate." Why did he need to lie to Orbia? Nico Robin is indeed not dead. Others don't know it. Crocodile, as the intelligence tycoon in the first half of the Grand Line, still knows it very well. He can also be regarded as a person in the dark world. Naturally knows about Avalon, and has done business with Avalon several times, buying arms and dancing fans. Robin, although few people know her true identity, she is not in need. He is extremely secretive. He often runs around in Avalon. There is nothing particularly surprising when he is discovered by Crocodile. This is a matter of hierarchy. Albia is alone, and he is not doing very well, let alone information about Robin was found. What's more, she had long thought that Robin was dead. And Crocodile's words, no matter how rubbish they were still under the command of the 7 warlords, and the level was here. Of course, the knowledge of the information was also a huge difference. Different places. I'm curious, you're looking for Alabasta hate. Does the historical text do? Albia looked at Crocodile and asked. Crocodile glanced at her and didn't hide anything. He said directly, the historical text of Alabasta is very likely to record the ancient weapon Pluto. Whereabouts? I want to get Hades. Don't you want to become a noble? Albia exclaimed. When did I admit it? Crocodile sneered. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 480. In the underground office of Yuyan Casino. At this time, Crocodile was sitting in his boss's chair, biting a cigar and looking at the transparent glass not far away. It's said to be glass, but it's actually a large fish tank. It's just that while others raised goldfish, Crocodile raised crocodiles. Banana crocodiles are special creatures found near the waters of Alabasta. They live in groups and are very ferocious. They can even hunt sea kings in groups for food. He is the top overlord of the sea area. After Crocodile discovered these ferocious crocodiles, he became very interested in them. He spent a lot of money to catch several and kept them in his office. On weekdays, he fights pirates and most of the villains he captures are used for food. Not far from Crocodile's desk, another desk was added. Sitting in front of the table is Nicole Albia. Is Baroque Works yours? Albia asked with some surprise after reading the information in his hand. Baroque Cooperative, a famous criminal group in the first half of the Grand Line. They are mainly bounty hunters, mixed with a large number of evil parties, and even there are also pirates who are entrenched near the entrance to the first half of the Grand Line, specializing in looting merchant ships and cruise ships from all over the world, or bullying new pirates. Although the top power is rubbish, it can even be said that there are almost no masters who can pass it. But they have strength in numbers. And most of the bounty hunter group is also hanging around here. It's not that there are no bounty hunters in other sea areas, but there are very few in other sea areas. The 4 seas are okay, but the business is not anyway. There are not many pirates in number, and the entrance sea area of the first half of the Grand Line is the place where all pirates must pass to enter the Grand Line. Instead of going to other sea areas to catch pirates, it is better to wait for them here. As for the New World, it is the world of pirates, and bounty hunters can hardly make a living in it. Where they are not hunters, they are simply prey. They can play in places that even the Navy cannot. Must transfer? Although to the general class, Baroque works is very mysterious. No one knows who their boss behind the scenes is. But for those real bosses who control the world's situation, crocodiles, the identity is not a particularly secretive piece of information. At least Orgrim knew it, and it was not based on foresight, but was obtained through serious intelligence. Presumably the world government, the Navy headquarters, the rest of the Yonko pirates, etc. He probably knows it in his heart. But it's pointless for Crocodile to engage in these unattractive things. In addition, his status as the king of the Shishibukai does have some effect. This person is relatively quiet, doesn't do much trouble, and makes some black money. Just make some black money, and no one will care about him. But for low-class people like Albia, Baroque works is already very powerful and mysterious. Crocodile revealed himself at this time. His identity is still very impactful to Albia. That's right, so if you join me, I can provide you with safe shelter. After all, I am the king of the Shishibukai, and no one from the world government, the Navy, or the power of Alabasta will come to check me casually. Yes, if you can do things with peace of mind here, I can guarantee your safety. Crocodile said very calmly. Albia nodded, actually agreeing with Crocodile's words. Indeed, with Crocodile's power, if nothing else can be done, there should be no problem in protecting her. Do many people know your identity? What exactly do you want to do? Albia asked. Crocodile smiled. Do many people know my identity? Then it's all over the sea. Crocodile is not really a fool. After all, he can be regarded as the same as Ogre. People of the same period as Mew, when Orgrim did not join Shiji's banner, Crocodile also went to sea. Before losing to Whitebeard, he was one step away from standing on the top of the pirates. Man! Do you really think that his name of Crocodile 50-50 is for nothing? Douglas Barrett, the leader of the Warhammer pirates, is strong enough, right? I had 50-50 fights with him many times back then. Therefore, Crocodile still has some vision. Of course, he is very clear that his so-called secret identity is no more than enough to fool little people like Albia. It is far from fooling the real big guys. But these words, there is no need to explain it clearly to Albia. Keeping yourself mysterious and powerful is also a good way to control Albia. There is only one person besides you, and his name is Das Bones. Crocodile said softly. Indeed, he has actually met many of his subordinates, and those subordinates only came to see him after they made big mistakes. And the reason why Crocodile met them, there is only one thing, and that is to feed and see if your big babies eat well. Baroque works does not allow any major mistakes. If anyone makes a big mistake, just wait for it to disappear inexplicably. As for what I want to do, when Crocodile said this, he laughed and said, I want to defeat Whitebeard, defeat Orgrim, and return to the New World. You, Albia looked at Crocodile strangely. Although you Crocodile are very powerful, I am very willing to admit it. But you, it's nothing more than an under the Royal Shishibukai, and one of the two most notorious among the two under the Uncle Shishibukai. Compared with Whitebeard and Orgrim, the gap between you is too big, right? Do you really think you can be better than them with this Baroque Works company? Those people are people who can't even be dealt with by the world government, but the world government can easily deal with you. Crocodile seemed to see the distrust in Albia's eyes, but he wasn't angry at all. He smiled and said, doubt my strength. Before Albia could speak, Crocodile waved his hand and said, there is no need to explain anything, and there is no need to explain, because this is the fact. In terms of personal strength, I am indeed no match for Orgrim and Whitebeard. Albia breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Apart from anything else, Crocodile is somewhat self-aware. Just be a blind and arrogant person, otherwise the closer you are to him, the faster you will die. However, victory is not only about personal strength. I have to admire Orgrim's extraordinary brains and strength. Back then, we went to sea at the same time, and as soon as I went to sea, I made a name for myself in the New World. Time, even earlier than him, but in the end, I failed, but he became one of the pirate emperors of the New World, and sat on Avalon, sweeping across the Dark World, and the gathered power made the world the government had no choice but to compromise with him. In less than 20 years, he went from being a worthless little guy to a top boss in today's world who can make the sea tremble when he stomps his feet. I don't have such a clear understanding as him. His plan has been very rigorous from the beginning, and his strength and power have grown together. But before I lost to Whitebeard, I didn't even understand these reasons. Just relying on personal bravery is not enough. Ways to become a real gold medalist, Crocodile said softly. After a short pause, he picked up the coffee in front of him, took another sip, moistened his throat, and then continued. Over the years, I have been studying Orgrim repeatedly. The more I study, the more I admire him. His ability, his most powerful thing, is not his personal strength that is unparalleled in the world, but that in less than 10 years, he has pulled up a powerful force from Avalon to serve as his base and support. Use his power. I can't do this, and I don't have time to do it. At this point, he looked at Albia and said solemnly, so, I believe that Whitebeard is no longer it's the future, and he, Orgrim, is the real future. If you want to seize the future, you must have more power than Orgrim. Avalon has become a trend, and the world government is taking advantage of them. I have no choice but to do the same for me, so if I want to advance bravely, I must not follow the rules. You know, how many troops does Alabasta have? Many. How many? Albia asked uncertainly. 2 million. Crocodile said solemnly. A total of 2 million elite permanent troops are stationed in the country, and the entire country has a population of more than 27 million. It also sits at the entrance to the first half of the Grand Route, the largest island, the super-large island Shengting Island. Perhaps the only regret is that, most of the islands are deserts, but this, to me, is like a gift from heaven, just like in Orgrim and the Night, in the Sea of Eternal Night, no one can defeat the King of the Night, and in this vast desert, and no one can defeat me, the King of the Desert. Do you understand what this means? Crocodile's eyes flashed and he asked ambitiously. What's the meaning? Albia seemed to have thought of something, but asked uncertainly. Ha 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 ha, it means that as long as I take Alabasta, find the legendary ancient weapon Pluto that can destroy the world, and make up for the gap between me and Orgrim in personal strength, then I, the Sand Crocodile, will Lockdale, in every respect, is inferior to Orgrim. By then, as long as I control the island with yellow sand and erode the island's ridge, Shengting Island will become my mobile kingdom. When Shengting Island enters a new era, world, I am the king of the new world. Crocodile said ambitiously. Albia was stunned. Are you, Crocodile, so coquettish? To be honest, if it were another island, Crocodile, no matter how awesome he is, would not be able to move like this. A huge island. However, this is a desert country, and Crocodile's ability will increase hundreds or thousands of times here. If he really has any powerful means, he might be able to move Shengting Island to a new place. The world. And if he achieves this step, he will also seize the rule of Alabasta, with a population of 27 million, an elite army of 2 million, and the ancient weapon Pluto. Then he and Austria, there is only the last gap between Grim and Grim. The level of cotters and combat effectiveness. And this gap will be quickly filled after he enters the new world in full glory, because in the new world, the most indispensable thing is masters. If Crocodile really comes up with this kind of ancient weapon Pluto, and enters the new world with a 1 million strong army in hand, he can pull up a high-quality cotter team in minutes. So, it has to be said that Crocodile's plan was quite successful. It was a serious overtaking in a corner project. He found another way to close the gap between himself and the top pirates. He has the ability to run a huge force like Avalon from scratch like Orgrim did. It doesn't matter, he decided to capture one directly. This is what he has planned for many years while studying Orgrim in Alabasta. The ultimate ambition. And once he completes the layout of this ambition, he can instantly change from the street king under the Shichibukai to the top pirate on the sea. Now, as far as Crocodile is concerned, the entire Alabastan has no one who can threaten him at all. The Nefertali royal family, no matter in terms of strength or strategy, is not worthy of being his opponent Crocodile. Now he just doesn't have the opportunity. The prestige of the Nefertali royal family it is still very high, with more than 20 million citizens. It is impossible for him to usurp power with strong methods. Otherwise, let alone entering the New World, it will take him more than 10 or 20 years to calm down the chaos and secure his position. Therefore, he will use gentle means to boil the frog of the Nefertali royal family to death. Now, everything that needs to be arranged has been arranged. In the next 5 to 10 years, he will definitely be able to use the most orthodox means to kill Neferuta. Liwan clan. Therefore, before entering the New World, he only has one thing left. That is, find the ancient weapon Pluto. In fact, it was no different from what Crocodile expected. If the Straw Hat Pirates hadn't come with the halo of the protagonist and forced him, the king of the desert, into the desert without any reason or logic, the Nefertali royal family would have been wiped out at the hands of Crocodile. Once the ancient weapons are obtained, Crocodile will take off directly. How could he go to jail in Imperial?